Since Cheney shot his friend, in the face, I've been asking that, and it's very uncommon. As much as they want you to think it's a very, because remember they said that it happens all the time. Okay, and another question: how many here, if you shot a friend in the face, would either go in the ambulance to follow him to the hospital, to go to the hospital with him, or follow in a car that was, because the vice president has cars. He has like vans, and they have all the latest stuff. They have headlights because it was and everything. How many would either go in the ambulance or follow in a car to see your friend at the hospital? Right. Okay. See, so now he was drunk. Right? I mean, that's either that or he's an enormous asshole. So, or both. Guys went to Oxford. It's a smart crowd. It's a smart crowd. But instead, you know, he said to Brit Hume it was 7, which means it's time for dinner. And he went back to the ranch and had dinner, and I think they might have had a quail. And my question is, and I think he's just a total jerk. I mean, how do you not go to the hospital unless you're drunk, of course? But I think I think it's both. But what was it like at dinner? Was it like he gets served a quail and goes, is this a quail? I shot when I shot Harry. Oh, we don't know, sir. We just kind of mixed up all. You better be shitting me. This better be the quail. You know what I went through to get? You better fucking be shitting me. I don't like him. She came up to me and said, I am a producer for Bill O'Reilly, and I started yelling at her. And she said, I read your book and I really liked it. This was after Lies and Lying Liars came out. That's when I started yelling at her, because I wouldn't yell at someone for just doing something they believed in. And I said, then how can you work for this guy? And she just went, whoa, 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 whoa. And she said, and she gave me her card. She said, I'm doing it because I'm learning a lot and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so she gave me her card. I got the card. I had written in the book about Jeremy Glick. Jeremy Glick's father died in 9/11. Died at the World Trade Center. He was worked for the Port Authority. Jeremy signed a petition of family members of survivors of 9/11 that was against the war in Iraq. O'Reilly was incensed that a family member of someone who died in 9/11 would sign a petition against the war in Iraq. So he wanted Glick on his show. So he has Jeremy Glick on the show. Jeremy Glick says to him, Bush 1 funded the Mujahideen. He's has a lefty view of everything. By the way, he said was more or less in the ballpark. Some stuff I wouldn't agree with him, but O'Reilly then goes on Terry Gross's show. I know this is a long story, but I think it's worth telling. And says to Terry Gross, she asks, and then it's written about in I think Harper's or the Atlantic Monthly or somewhere, Harper's I think, that basically he cut off the kid. He cut him off. He said, shut up, which is, he actually said to me too. He said, shut up to the kid, because he didn't like what he was saying. Cut his mic off. And then after they were off, after the camera stopped rolling, he said, get the fuck out of my studio before I fucking kill you. Wow. To the kid. Then he went into the green room to get a cup of coffee, and a producer ran in there and said, what are you doing in here? Get out of here. We don't want our guy to see you because he may end up in prison. So Jeremy got out of there. And Harper's wrote about this. So Terry Gross asked O'Reilly about this, and O'Reilly doesn't deny any of that. He says, I did this because this kid, says that Bush 1 and Bush 2 orchestrated 9/11. Now, he didn't say that. I'm listening to the Terry Gross interview, and this is the one that O'Reilly walked off. I listen to it. I get a telegram, not a telegram, I always say telegram. I get an email. I get an email from Jeremy saying, thanks for writing about me in the book, because I had written about the Harper's thing in the book, and about the... He said, I am a PhD student at Rutgers. The only way I make a living is by writing. It's hard for a guy who's been labeled a nut, a conspiracy theorist, to get a job writing anything. What do I do? So I consult my lawyer, who, remember, O'Reilly sued me, and I say to my lawyer, Floyd Abrams, probably the #1 First Amendment lawyer in the country, does this kid have any recourse? And Floyd says he'd have to prove that O'Reilly knows he's lying. O'Reilly lies so pathologically that I think he'd have a tough time proving that O'Reilly knows he's lying. So I call Jeremy up and I say, I don't think you can go to court on this. I call Andrea Macris and I say, will you tell Bill O'Reilly to stop saying this? Because he had been saying it on his radio show too, that Jeremy Glick had said that Bush 1 and Bush 2 orchestrated 9/11. She says, I can't do that. I said, what do you mean you can't do that? Well, he wouldn't listen, and I get fired. And I got and she said, I'll tell you what, will you meet me for dinner? So we go to a restaurant on the Upper West Side, and she tells me why she couldn't do that, and then she tells me about this pattern he had that came up in the lawsuit. And not to tell anyone. And I don't tell anyone. So when the lawsuit happened, the owner of that restaurant told the New York Post that we had had dinner. So that was the proof. So what that had been about was me trying to get her to tell him to stop smearing this kid